Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. If you didn't know it already, then my name is Lucas and I am your favorite news host from the most important place in the entire world, Taiwan. That's right, according to New York Times, Taiwan is the most important place in the entire world. This article focused mainly on the computer chip market, with TSMC down in Tainan as an example. And all of the global technologies such as Internet of Things and all the smartphones we're using on a daily basis will require the chips to get faster and faster and smaller. The Taiwanese importance will only get bigger and bigger. Something else technology related that just keeps getting bigger and bigger is the number of Gs we have in our smartphones, assuming you're not a Chinese telecom company in Sweden, because then you will be excluded from the 5G network and more or less completely banned in the entire country. Although to be honest, I have to admit that I am a little confused about how this news about a Chinese telecom company being banned from the 5G network in Sweden ended up in the Taiwanese news. But to be fair, I'm sure there's also a lot of new viewers here today who's also curious about how this Swede ended up in Taiwan. And if you are, please consider take a few seconds to hit that subscribe button and that bell to get notified as soon as I release new videos, as I am planning on kicking off the new year with a little bit different kind of video series, which will be a little bit more personal, more in-depth, explaining who I am and what I'm doing here in Taiwan in the first place. Speaking of kicking off the next year, something else that is more or less being kicked off the Taiwanese passport starting from next year is the word China, as the Taiwanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs have redesigned the passports since they want to highlight the name Taiwan instead of Republic of China. Here you have both designs side by side, and as you can see on the new design, the name Republic of China has pretty much the same size as those microchips being produced at the TSMC down in Tainan. When I first saw these passports, I just thought that this is not that big of a deal, this is just a new design of the same thing. But I guarantee you that there must be a lot of politics and hidden messages involved here, and it cannot be easy to just swap out the design like this. Please remember that this is the official travel document of an entire country's population and not a Gogoro battery. Speaking of Gogoro, if you've been watching my videos for a while, then you know that I'm a huge fan of their scooters, and it turns out I'm not the only one. You see, the Taiwanese electric scooter company recently got recognized as the global company of the year by the US-based consulting firm Frost & Sullivan. My personal opinion, the best thing about a Gogoro is just a comfortable and spacious seat, so a guy in my size don't have to worry about having my knees touching the handlebar in every single turn. But it appears that the guys over at Frost & Sullivan are slightly shorter, since they're giving this award to Gogoro mostly for their swappable battery stations, which we here in Taiwan call Go stations. Now it's close to 2,000 Go stations here in Taiwan, and they're no longer exclusive to Gogoro's own scooters, as they have opened up a licensing program so other manufacturers such as Yamaha and PGO can take advantage of these swappable battery stations. This way, all these other companies who are also working on electric scooters nowadays don't have to worry about these replaceable battery stations and can just focus on improving the actual scooter and don't have to reinvent the wheel, or technically the batteries that are powering these wheels. Now, this video is not sponsored, but I really cannot praise Gogoro enough, and I really think that they are making the best scooter to use in the city and for a daily commute. And I think that they hit a home run when it came to the spacious and comfortable design. So maybe they should jump on those scooters and head down to Taichung, since that is where the final qualifier for the Tokyo Olympics in baseball will take place. That's where the Taiwanese team, together with Australia, China, the Netherlands, and 2 teams from the Americas qualifications, will fight over which team will get that final ticket to Japan. But someone who most likely is not looking forward to receiving a ticket to Japan right now is the New Zealand pilot who recently decided to take a weekend getaway here in Taiwan. Now, the following recap will be aimed to all the foreigners who may not be up to date with this current situation. I'm just gonna assume that every single Taiwanese who are watching my videos are very well aware and very well updated on this whole scenario. But basically, in short, this New Zealand pilot is the reason for why Taiwan now has its first domestic COVID-19 case in 253 days. So, long story short, although this might actually be quite long, this pilot, originally from New Zealand, he arrived Taiwan on December 4th from the US. Not really important to the story, just giving you that extra detail as a Christmas bonus. He then stayed his 3 days in quarantine because apparently if you're a pilot, you only need 3 days quarantine, although the rest of the world seems to need 14 days. But if you're a pilot, maybe COVID-19 is working a little bit faster. I don't really know how it works. It doesn't make any sense to me. Only thing I know for sure is that I probably shouldn't have any comments on this. I'm positive that there are health authorities and system and regulations in place just to make sure that they follow all the procedures, and for some reason pilots would not need the 14 days. Although I am sure that there must be thousands of pilots just grounded waiting for the next flight, waiting for a chance to be up in the air again. So there can't really be a shortage of pilots, so I don't really see why the pilots could not spend their 14 days in quarantine. But again, I'm confident in all the health organizations and all the airport regulations and system in place. The problem, however, is that this pilot doesn't really seem to follow the regulations, because after this 3-day quarantine, he spent 4 days roaming around Taipei, which, to be fair, since he was out of quarantine, I believe he has all the right to do, and I don't think there's been anything wrong doing here. However, after these 4 days on his little Taipei weekend getaway, which we will come back to in a lot more detail later in this video, so just be patient because things are getting interesting. After this little vacation, he then joined a flight together with a Japanese and Taiwanese colleague. Again, not really important, just the extra Christmas detail for you guys. However, one detail that is very important is that he was experiencing a cough, but still decided not to wear a mask. So although his Japanese and Taiwanese colleague in cockpit were wearing a mask without feeling any symptoms, sadly after this, the Taiwanese co-pilot in cockpit was diagnosed with COVID-19, and because of the Taiwanese health organization's tracking system, they were able to track down this New Zealand pilot and also see what he had been up to the days prior to this flight. And I think this following example just simply illustrates how amazing and detailed the Taiwanese health authorities have been throughout this entire pandemic, or I should say non-existing pandemic here in Taiwan. And this is something that is completely unheard of in most countries, especially in Sweden, where we barely treat COVID-19 cases. But here in Taiwan, the authorities were pretty fast with establishing that this New Zealand pilot had come in close contact with at least one female friend who's working at Quanta Computers. Not really important, but we will come back to this one later in this video. So it's then this female friend who is the first local COVID-19 case here in Taiwan in over 250 days. But when being questioned by the Taiwanese CCC and the police, the pilot claimed that since he didn't have a habit of keeping track on places he had been, he had no memory and could not recall where exactly in Taiwan he had been. However, he did mention at one point that he was traveling around Taipei alone in his car, but failed to mention that while he was alone in the car, he also had company of a female friend. Now, I'm sure that there must be plenty of possibilities to why this man forgot that he had been in, according to the Taiwanese authorities, close contact with this female friend of his. I mean, what does close contact even mean? It could be that they just bumped into each other on the street, or maybe they were accidentally sitting next to each other, or maybe at the same table at a Starbucks. It is, however, also possible that the online rumors about this man having a wife and family in Japan are true as well. Now, I want to be very clear that as I'm recording this rumor about his wife and family in Japan is just a rumor. I have no idea if this is true or not. So based on this, all the possible scenarios on how he came in close contact with this female friend is all possible. But not if you want to believe the Taipei city government and the surveillance footage that they got during their police investigation. Because according to this investigation, and all the information is available online for everyone to see, just to cross-reference that they have not been in any of these areas at the same time as this couple. They started their meeting at 11:29 AM on December 8th at Shinko Mitsukushi up in Tianmu when they purchased bread. I don't think that the bread part has anything to do with the story. Afterwards, they drove to the Taipei main station, took the MRT from Taipei Main to Elephant Mountain, hiked up the beautiful Elephant Mountain to enjoy the view, and then after sunset, they headed back up to Tianmu for some little DTF action. And again, if you are a foreigner watching this video, you should know that DTF here in Taiwan refers to the restaurant Din Tai Fung and not the other DTF as you were thinking about. I'm not saying that the second DTF did not happen after the first DTF, I'm just saying that that is not included in the official report from the CECC. So as a result of this one-day Taipei travel tour, the department store up in Tianmu had to close 4.5 hours early to disinfect their entire facilities. The health authorities have continued their tracing and tracked down 167 people who have come in contact with this first case with the female friend, and all of them have either started with home quarantine or conducted some COVID-19 tests. The pilot has now been fired from EVA. The Taiwan Stock Exchange fell 1.44% in one single day. EVA Airlines, where this pilot was working, got fined $35,000, and Quanta Computer, where the woman worked because the entire company went into complete lockdown as well, their stock fell 1.5%. And as the cherry on top, if you do want to believe all the rumors, then the pilot's wife and family are most likely still in Japan, but also most likely more looking forward to the Tokyo Olympics than the pilot's return. And speaking of cherry on top, I just want to end this video with a little bit more positive news and let everyone know that the US tart cherry juice now is tariff-free into Taiwan. I just wanted to end on a positive note, since it is pretty cold-hearted by this pilot to enjoy his Taiwan vacation with another female friend while his wife and family is back home in Japan. And since we all want to avoid cold hearts, please make sure to dress up a little bit extra this week, especially if you're planning on spending New Year's Eve outside watching that beautiful fireworks from Taipei 101, as this year might be the coldest New Year's Eve in 15 years if those Siberian winds are coming our way. But there's no need to worry for me though, because I will most likely spend my New Year's in this sound and heat isolated studio planning this new upcoming video series to kick off the new year as well. But just to make sure and to warm my heart a little bit extra during these cold times, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell to get notified as soon as I release new videos. My name is Lukas, starts with L as in like, ends with S as in subscribe. Please do both, and see you all in the next one.